What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Country Bunkers Trains, and welcome to part 4 of the O-Gauge layout expansion. In the last video, we got all of the tracks screwed down and finalized to the layout, as well as got the control center or command center installed to control the new lines. We also took a quick look at the MTH reel tracks that is being used on the layout. In this video, we've got a quick little update. We're working on the new raised or upper loop that is going to be installed on the layout. I do apologize for a little bit of a late video. I usually try and upload these videos on the weekends. However, I was not able to this past weekend. But please do realize the stuff we're currently doing on the layout does not just happen overnight. We're doing a lot of new stuff and I'm learning as we're going. So it's taken a little bit longer. But hopefully the end product or the final result will be much better than it was before. I'm also doing a lot of work and putting in overtime at work, so I don't have as much time to designate towards the layout as I usually do. However, believe me, I really want to get these trains up and running again, so I'm still putting as much time in as I can. Before we get started with today's video, I was hoping you guys would take a quick moment with me and wish a fellow subscriber a happy birthday. Timothy Casper is celebrating his 50th birthday. Isn't that cool? A very happy birthday to you, Tim, and a big salute to you. Along with wishing you a happy birthday, I also wanted to give you and your lovely wife, Gina, a big thank you. Thank you guys for enjoying the channel and subscribing to the channel. I'm glad to hear that you guys are liking the videos that are coming out. That means a lot. Anyways, guys, let's move on with the main video. I'm sure as you can see behind me, some new stuff has been added to the layout, and we're in the midst of installing the new elevated line onto the layout. Like I was saying earlier, I don't have a whole lot of news or updates to share at the moment. However, I did want to get a video out there to show what's been happening on the layout over the past week. Also, like I was saying earlier, I haven't had a whole ton of time to devote to the layout. However, the stuff that I am doing does take up quite a bit of time. One of the main items, or staple pieces, if you will, to this layout is this big, beautiful Lionel swinging bridge. This is another piece I've had for quite a while, going on 20 years. My parents bought me this bridge at one of my first big train shows and swap meets. It's an absolutely beautiful bridge. The one downside with this bridge, it does take up quite a bit of real estate. However, I refuse to not use it because, as I say, it's such a beautiful bridge. I do wish I could place it a little bit closer to the front of the layout. However, like I say, with all the real estate that it takes up, I can't really do that. But this thing has a lot of beautiful detail to it. Rivets and all kinds of good stuff. It looks fantastic. But with the real estate it takes up, it has to stick to the back side of the layout, unfortunately. As I mentioned before in a previous video, I used to have grades running up and down to the bridge. However, I've realized that wasn't perfectly ideal. Some of the bigger engines and whatnot would get hung up on curves, and it just, like I say, it wasn't the best operating experience. So I've done away from doing any grades up and down to the bridge. Now I keep all of the elevated track just as it is, elevated. I keep it all nice and level. That way I don't run into any issues trying to negotiate curves on a grade and stuff like that, where the engines would get stuck before. For the past few years, I've been using these homemade trestles along with the tubular track. This stuff's very easy and very basic. All this is 1x2 wood cut to size, and like I say, used as the trestles. Very, very basic. The tubular track works great with these trestles, because the track is very stout. You don't got to worry so much about the track bending or flexing once it's screwed down to these trestles. Like I say, it's worked out wonderfully. However, as I've stated before, we're looking to do more of a high rail or an actual scale layout with this layout. I wanted to do something a little bit different, something a little bit more stately looking or a little bit more impressive looking. Since we're going to be running scale engines and equipment on this layout, I wanted to do something a little bit more scale and realistic looking, if you will. Knowing I wanted to do something a little bit more scale and realistic looking, I started looking around online and researching bridges and bridge side plates, so on and so forth. I knew it was going to have to be custom built, as nothing was going to be out there that would fit my own personal elevated line or loop. Sure, I could install factory MTH bridges or Lionel bridges. However, that really wasn't going to take care of my curves and so on and so forth. Like I say, everybody's layout is a little bit different. So it was going to have to be something that was custom made to fit my own personal layout. So like I say, I started researching online and I came across two companies that offered a product that I was looking for. Bridge side plates to custom make my own bridges. The first company was Scenic Express. They offered a beautiful O-gauge girder plate set to make your own girder bridges, so on and so forth. It was a beautiful looking girder plate, very scale, detailed with rivets, so on and so forth. However, I also came across TW Trainworx that offers this beautiful, what they call truss rail. It kind of looks like a subway rail. Beautiful stuff. I started comparing the two, and ultimately I ended up going with the TW Trainworx product. I went with this for a couple reasons. I think this looked better and fit what I was going after a little bit better than the standard girder plates from Scenic Express. As well as price per foot, this stuff was a tiny bit cheaper than the girder plates from Scenic Express. TW Trainworx offers this stuff in two varieties. I happen to go with what they call the R31 truss rail. They offer another one, the R30 or R32. I forget the number. However, this one happens to be modeled after a steel-looking trestle system or bridge, if you will, whereas the other one looks like it's more modeled after a wooden trestle or bridge. This stuff is made out of 1/8" ABS plastic, so it bends real easily to curves and conforms to where it needs to go. It works great in that department. This happens to be a cutoff piece or a leftover piece off of one of the sections I've already built on the layout, but it does come in 8-foot long sections that you can trim and cut to size as needed. TW Trainworx does say that you can glue this stuff to the MDF or plywood, whatever you're using. However, I wanted to play it safe, and I ended up screwing it. I drilled holes through the piece itself, beveled the holes, and just used wood screws to attach it to the elevated sections of line. But like I say, they do say you can glue it. I just preferred the screws for that extra security in case the adhesive was ever to give out and this stuff let go. I picked up some 1/2" MDF board to use as the bridge or baseboard itself. I ended up using the track itself as well to create the template needed for the different sets of trestles or bridges. Once I had the template drawn up or diagram, I used this daylight for referencing to make sure the curves of the trestle itself was going to be wide enough. This engine happens to overhang the most, and this is the engine I'm planning on running on this elevated loop. But once verified that the curves and whatnot were wide enough and the engine was going to run fine throughout the trestle system, I used a jigsaw to cut out the different sections of the baseboard. With the baseboard cut, now it was time to install the new truss rail. As I mentioned earlier, TW Trainworx states that you can glue this straight to the MDF. However, I chose to screw it. I was a little afraid of the glue coming undone in the future and the truss rail separating from the bridge or trestle itself, so I just drilled holes, beveled the holes, and used wood screws to attach it. Once attached, I trimmed the excess truss rail off of the bridge or trestle itself and retest fit the track. With the track installed, I ran the GS4 through the trestle piece once more to ensure it wasn't hitting anywhere or anything like that, and everything looked good. For the legs or supports of the new trestle or bridge, I wanted to do something a little bit more different. I could have continued on using the old 1x2 wood that I had used previously. However, as I stated, I wanted to do something a little bit more scale or realistic looking. I thought this would have looked a little too bulky under the new bridge. I ended up finding this stuff at the local Home Depot. I found this in the trim section next to the lumber with all the baseboard, wall trim, so on and so forth. This is basically 1/2 inch by 3/4 inch wood, and I think it pulls the look off pretty well. For the height, we went a little bit higher than it used to be. I'd like to pick up a scale GG1 in the future and be able to run that engine with the pantograph in the correct position being up. So I test fit it with my old post-war EP5, and we ended up coming up with 8 inches tall. The EP5 needed 7 3/4 inches of clearance, so I gave it an extra 1/4 inch just to be safe. And like I say, I think this stuff pulls the look off pretty well. I had a few colors in mind for this new trestle. I was thinking either black, silver, green, or burgundy. I ended up falling on this Rust-Oleum burgundy or cranberry color. I think it looks great. I opted out of doing black or silver because I thought it would be a little bit too plain looking, and I already have black trestles on the second layout. I would like to use green, and I have used green in the past. However, it kind of blends in with the grass. It doesn't really stick out as much. I think this cranberry color looks great. It looks right at home on this trestle. It's got a nice gloss to it, but it's not overly glossy, if you know what I mean. Like I say, I think it looks pretty good. I do not plan on weathering it or anything like that. I'm going to keep it just as it is. Here's where we're at currently with it. I think it's coming out pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. I'm pretty happy with it. Starting to look a little professional. But yeah, I think it looks great. I'm pretty happy with how this S-curve over here turned out as well. The straight sections of the trestle are 6 inches wide, and the curves are around 7 3/4 inches wide for clearance. I did push that big GS4 engine through the new trestles that are installed, and it's clearing everything with no problem. And like I say, that's the biggest engine, or the engine with the most overhang that I plan on running on this elevated loop. And there's plenty of clearance, so I think will be good for future engines coming to the layout as well. This MTH bridge does look a little goofy with the big tall legs. However, we'll hide that in the future with buildings and scenery and whatnot. It won't look quite as goofy. I did kind of screw myself. I didn't get enough of this truss rail. I had to order some more as I ran out. I've only got the one piece and this cut piece left, and obviously I've got this front section still to do. So I've got some more on order. We're kind of on hold waiting for that stuff to come in. I did have to modify and trim some of the Menards Tubular track for this new elevated line, but it's coming out pretty good, I think. I also had to modify and raise the piers for the Lionel swinging bridge in the back of the layout. I didn't shoot any video or pictures of this, as I wasn't extremely proud of how this turned out. However, it's doing its job, and it's nice and level with the remainder of track, so I'm not redoing it. All I used for this was some leftover particle board from the layout expansion itself, or the table, and like I say, it's doing its job, but it's not the prettiest thing in the world. One thing I will say, as I've always said, I try to stay somewhat budget friendly. I'm not shy on dropping a few bucks on my engines. However, when it comes to the track, scenery, and rolling stock, I'm somewhat of a cheap SOB. Like I say, I try to stay mostly budget friendly when it comes to that stuff. And this elevated line has blown the budget way out of the water. It was not cheap by any means. I plan on going through how much this new expansion cost in the next video. I've had a few people reach out and ask pricing on some of the stuff. Like I say, we'll go over that in the next video once this actual expansion is completed. Although this expansion and new elevated line hasn't exactly been cheap, I don't really mind it this go around. As I stated in the first video of this expansion, this will be the last time this layout will be getting expanded. It's now as far out as it can come, and we have the biggest radius curves that we can possibly fit on it. And I gotta draw the line somewhere. Like I say, this one is not going to be expanding anymore. I'm just going to keep it how it is. If I ever do get the itch or want to mess around with a layout, I'll have to stick to messing strictly with the second layout, or the toy or traditional styled layout. This one's going to stay how it is for quite a long time. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video, or at the very least got some ideas for your own personal layout. If you did enjoy the video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. Once again, Tim, a very happy birthday, and a big salute to you. But anyways, guys, my name is Zach, and this is Country Bunkers Trains. Y'all take care. I'll see you the next go-around.